cool, I did Arrival of the Birds. Like for me, that's definitely like, I'm relatively confident in saying that's the hardest thing I've climbed by quite a good margin. Or like, it was probably the hardest like process for me to complete in total, in its entirety. But then I also acknowledge I couldn't ask for it to suit me much better. I'm relatively confident that's like my like hardest climb. And I think it could be super easy to look back and just be like, wow, there's the day I did my hardest climb. Nice. Which obviously is definitely relevant. It's like pretty special for me. Or like there's definitely like pride I can take in that as well. And that like, I know I put a lot of energy into that. And so there is, I am proud of like the physical achievement. The reason I called it Arrival of the Birds is, partly it's a piece of orchestral music I quite liked. That was kind of like the inspiration for it. But the main reason was that it probably represents a climbing experience where I felt like you mentioned about feeling quite present, really in quite a state of flow. And it was like quite amazing to top out that climb. And like kind of like, I felt in like such a relaxed state, and like very attuned to just like my experience in the moment, because I just felt like I had no distraction. And one of the most like obvious features of that evening was how much, but like there's an insane amount of birdsong. I have a video of it, and like I think it's like through my like, I've got like an old school handy cam, and the audio capturing is not super good, but you can like hear like an insane amount of birdsong. Like it was like it's like reference to that, I guess, like maybe like I'm trying to think of the most like noticeable feature of like that in the moment experience, and it was probably the birdsong. So partly why I named it Arrival of the Birds.
Hey friends, I want to take a minute to tell you about a new product that I am so excited about. This is the Vertex Alpine Approach Shoe from Arc'teryx. I'm not an alpine climber, but I love bouldering in the mountains in Colorado. And a lot of the bouldering I do during this summer has really long approaches. And I need a shoe that is comfortable, super durable, and I also need to be able to trust them when I'm scrambling around on talus. These shoes are amazing. They're super grippy. They have this climbing toe cap, so they're really good on rock. You can smear in them. They're great for technical approaches. They're super lightweight, and you can move really fast through the mountains with these shoes. They're also available in Gore-Tex. I got the Gore-Tex version because I'm going to be crossing streams, hiking up muddy trails as the snow melts, and crossing snowfields to get to my projects in Rocky Mountain National Park this summer. These shoes are literally perfect. Check out the Vertex Alpine and the Vertex Alpine GTX by clicking my special link right there in the video description, and enjoy the rest of the video.
That session was a really interesting one in that like I'd kind of had like a few sessions prior to it on that trip where like the moves had started to feel like more reliable. I'd kind of like start to understood the time of year and like the conditions around that time. And it was really obvious from quite an early stage that the training had made a huge difference. Like I felt like I just had so much more capacity on the moves. And it was the start of a trip, so I felt like quite relaxed in terms of time as well, and was really like happy to just try it when I wanted to try it, kind of thing. And it was actually like, usually it's definitely like when I have a project like that, I would be like quite careful about the days in which I climb, and be really like I'd like kind of control the controllables and be like quite rigid in my plan in many ways. And it was on this day I was actually traveling with Sam Pratt and Ashima, where there was actually a big group of them. Ashima was working on like a filming project in Brione, and Sam was helping film it as well. And they were like busy doing a bunch of filming that day. And I actually didn't know if I would get a chance to climb later on in that day. But anyway, the opportunity arose. And but I was kind of like, I'd been quite rested. I'd like rested up to like try it because like my previous session had been pretty promising. But I like didn't have necessarily loads of expectations I would climb.
Expectations that you would climb at all? You didn't know if you'd climb at all?
I kind of had hoped that I'd climb, but was like open to climb the following day as well. I think I'd rested. I'd had like a session on it. I climbed on some easier boulders, and then I'd had a rest day. And so like I felt pretty well rested in pretty good condition, but I was like, I could also rest, and I'd have had a double rest day after an easy day, and I'd probably be really well rested. Sometimes after a double rest day, I don't actually like it, but I was kind of like not too tied on like definitely climbing. But anyway, the opportunity arose. I headed over to Schattental, and it was like it was a really beautiful like evening, and I felt really good warming up, and my like second go of the session, I think I climbed really well. I basically like did the first move of the higher start from the lower start, which was like basically when I did that, I was kind of like, oh, I know I have some chances kind of thing. And I like I felt like I had a really clear mind. I felt like I was moving really well, and I got through all of the hard climbing. I got over the lip to where I fell off at the end of 2023 from the higher start, but this time from the lower start. I kind of like essentially I had the same sensation of just like felt like I had no blood in my fingertips. Like I just had no sensation. But it's not really that my hands are cold. It's like a weird, I've never really had it on other I think basically because you do so many foot moves and you spend so much time in like a really like, I don't know if you've done like density hangs in like a really acutely flexed position, and then you like take your hands off and it's like really hard to uncurl your fingers. It's kind of like that. Like,
well, I used to climb at Smith Rock, so I do know what you're talking about. Just like pressure them and like you have the claw.
Yeah. And I actually timed how long I do spend. There's basically, it revolves loads around like a really intense front free crimp. And I think I spend like 30 seconds on this hold.
Whoa.
It's pretty amazing. You do like loads of moves off it, foot moves. You kind of do like a full clock off it. It's quite interesting.
30
So I think it makes sense to me now. But essentially I fell off way over this lip. And I think the thing that I was like almost most proud of in terms of like my experience was that like I fell off and I was like super happy because I feel like I'd been really like, actually it felt like for me personally, what I'd been really looking for in the like these climbing experiences was like these moments where like I like find something that's so hard for me that necessitates me to like kind of really like solve this complex like puzzle to such a degree that like there is like no margin for error. So like I like have to like almost like put in like a flawless performance in a physical and psychological sense, and like kind of that like maybe that like near like moment of like climbing perfection, and like actually doing spots of time, it was like pretty close, but there was like in terms of method there was like a couple of things which I was like, I didn't do that perfectly. Like I readjusted on the first move, and like there were like very small things which like kind of went slightly wrong, but they were tangible. I was like, I could like kind of tell. I think like I'd never really had an experience where I felt like I'd like climbed in like a state of flow, and like kind of made like almost like no mistakes. And this attempt where I fell off on the lip, like I climbed the bottom section, and to the point where I was putting my foot like kind of almost after all the hardest of moves, you like put your foot really far up and left, and I missed the foothold. And like it was kind of like from then that the mistakes started happening, and I kind of like ended up cutting loose where I shouldn't have and things. But it was like definitely that attempt on Arrival of the Birds was like probably one of the experiences where I was like, wow, in terms of like sensationally, like that was like incredible.